Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike from 1AAuto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And next time you need parts for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the front strut mount on this 2003 Chevy Monte Carlo. And it's the same part and similar process on these Monte Carlos from 2000 to 2007. And we show you on the passenger side, but the driver's side is the same procedure. And the items you'll need for this is a new front strut mount from 1AAuto.com, a 15, 19, and 21 millimeter socket and ratchet, an 18 millimeter wrench, a 21 millimeter strut socket, a T47 Torx bit, a hammer, a torque wrench, penetrating oil, jack and jack stands, and spring compressors. Start off by using a 19 millimeter socket to loosen up these lug nut caps. And pull your hubcap free. And if you have air-powered tools, you want to lift your vehicle and remove the lug nuts. If you don't have air-powered tools, you want to keep the vehicle on the ground, loosen the lug nuts, raise the vehicle, and then remove the lug nuts the rest of the way. And then just pull your wheel free. Now spray these two strut bolts with some penetrating oil and do the same thing for these three up here. And then we'll fast forward as Mike loosens and removes those three strut bolts up top. Now replace one of those nuts, just finger tight. Put an 18 millimeter wrench on one side, and then use a 21 millimeter socket and ratchet on the other. And you may need a piece of pipe for some extra leverage. And then just loosen up those two nuts.
And also, if you do have ABS brakes, there'll be a couple of harnesses that you need to detach from the strut at this point and reattach them later on.
Hammer the knuckle in between the two posts of the strut, and then remove those nuts the rest of the way. And then just hammer out the bolts. Pull the bolts the rest of the way free. Now pull your wheel knuckle forward, push the strut back, and then angle it down, and then remove that nut that you put back on finger tight up top, and then pull your strut down and out. Spray this top bolt with penetrating oil, and then attach your spring compressors. And you either use an air-powered ratchet or use a ratchet and socket, and you want to just tighten these up. And you want to go back and forth, tightening them up until the spring is compressed. Put your T47 Torx bit into the bolt at the top of the strut. Make sure it's in there nice and good. And then put on your strut socket. And then just remove this bolt. And we'll fast forward as Mike removes this the rest of the way. Once the nut's removed, just remove this plate and then pull the mount from the strut. And now you can lift your spring up and off. And pull this boot free. On the left is the new front strut mount from 1AAuto. On the right is the old one. You can see they're identical and they'll fit exactly the same. push this cap onto the boot, and then slide the boot down into place. And then lower your spring into place, making sure it lines up on that tab the way it was before. Once you have it lined up, take your mounting plate and just line it up and push it down into place. Push this plate into place and then replace that nut. And now just tighten up that nut, and you can just use the tools that you use to loosen it, but you will notice we're using slightly different tools just because of some other things that we've changed. Now carefully loosen your spring compressors. Just loosen each one a little bit at a time, going back and forth, making sure that the spring is uncoiling in the right spot. Take your new strut and feed it back up into place. And then just replace those nuts by hand at the top of the strut. Now push the strut back behind the wheel knuckle, and then push the wheel knuckle into it. And then replace those two bolts as far as you can. And you will have to maneuver it around a bit to get the holes to line up. And then use a hammer and hit them in. And when they have about this much space left, you can just use the nut to pull them the rest of the way through. So just replace the nuts and then tighten these up. And now torque these two bolts to 130 foot-pounds. Replace the wheel. And then replace and tighten up those nuts in a crossing pattern. Now torque each of them to 100 foot-pounds in a crossing pattern. And we'll fast forward as Mike tightens those three nuts at the top of the strut. And torque each of these to 30 foot-pounds. Now replace your hubcap. And tighten up your lug nut caps. And then you're all set.
We hope this video helps you out. Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free, 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.